One of the more interesting bits of news that has been going around regarding the Russia-Ukraine situation has been the announcement by many of the volunteers, particularly those from the United States, that decided to volunteer to go over and fight on the side of Ukraine in this war. There's been videos of them, those who decided that they were going to stand on the side of NATO, or whatever it is that they believe that they're doing, and fight Russia, who've essentially just donated themselves for that cause. They are now recording videos that are being sent back home, many of them even fleeing Ukraine. Because when they get there and they join this perceived almost holy crusade against Russia, they're not being treated very well. They get there and they're complaining that they're being used straight up as cannon fodder. Well, generally that's how volunteers are usually treated. And that's not unique to NATO or anything. But how did they not know that was going to happen? I mean, there's so many ties to people of certain far-right ideologies in the country that are known for dehumanizing life and stuff like that. So what they're doing is they're going over, they're finding out, hey, we're not actually worth anything. And there's been videos of people who were there released saying that they're being given guns with only 10 rounds of ammunition and then being sent out to fight Russian forces. And then just getting killed. Here's one of those videos.
If any of you guys have seen interviews of the situation going on in Ukraine, you've probably seen this guy. Is it true that they're sending people to the front lines without weapons and gear?
Yeah, there's definitely people who are getting sent up forward, very close to the front, and they're on bases up there with no weapons so far.
And they're being asked to patrol the base in Kiev without weapons. It's not bullshit. Whoever's telling you that is lying. People that have gone before us have reported back to us saying that they were not given a weapon. 3 days after being there, they're not issued a weapon. These are people that we were going to go with. We were about to get sent, and we said, no, we're not going to go without gear or weapons. I have gear. He has gear, but a lot of guys that are with us, a lot of people from the UK don't have gear, and they weren't being issued gear. And even if you were issued a gun, you were given a magazine with 10 rounds. That's not okay.
So, those of you who feel that you're going to run off and be a hero by fighting Russia, this is what's in store for you. The imperialist countries do not care about you. They have never cared about you. They never will care about you. Because the goal of NATO is the surrounding of Russia. Not human rights, not freedom or democracy or some kind of nonsense like that. I mean, one only has to look at the history of the US, the head of NATO, to see what democracy actually means to the country. Consider all the dictators the US has placed in power and how many democratic governments have been overthrown by the United States. Ones that those who would volunteer for a mission like this would frequently ignore or claim didn't exist. So to anybody who's considering going over and simply doing the bidding of NATO, or doing the bidding of what is U.S. capital, think about this. This isn't going to be like when, you had a handful of, what would be the correct term to mark them as? Well, they claim to be like ANCOMs who went over to fight for Rojava, who went over to fight for the U.S. empire, to fight to steal Syrian land for U.S. oil companies. Now, many of them never actually saw any battle. Many of them just stood around and took publicity photos. They were treated as a photo op and didn't even actually see really any combat. And that's not what's happening in this case. You fight for the Empire this time, you're going to be thrown to the front, thrown to the lions, let's just going to say. It's basically just being straight thrown to the lions. Now, many of those volunteers are reportedly said to be cutting up passports and documents, etc., and then fleeing Ukraine because they're being treated so poorly. So to those thinking that they played Call of Duty, so now obviously they think they're soldiers and they know what to do, consider this. That famous Canadian sniper who holds the record, the so-called world's deadliest sniper, who's a Canadian soldier, whose identity cannot be revealed because by Canadian law, snipers are considered, special forces who have to have their identities concealed. He volunteered to go to Ukraine. He died within 20 minutes of being on the field. Because apparently a lot of people didn't seem to realize that shooting people like the Taliban or ISIS, who are basically untrained cannon fodder, they really don't know how to fight. They put them through a basic physical thing and teach them how to actually use a rifle. They're not actually trained very well, whereas Canadian soldiers are actually trained very highly. When those very highly trained soldiers go up against other very highly trained soldiers, they're not so effective anymore. For a very long time, the imperialist countries, Canada being one of them, the United States, the UK, etc., have not been fighting actual professional armies. They've been fighting militants with barely any training at all, if any training at all. Then once they have to go into the field against, say, something like a Russian soldier or Russian special forces, it's a very different situation altogether, and suddenly they're not quite the supermen that they make themselves out to be. So just remember, if even the best of the best are being gunned down in 20 minutes, you, as a nobody who probably played too much Call of Duty, doesn't stand much of a chance at all. And if you've got even a modicum of intelligence, stay out of it. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.